I'm Randy Haberkamp, and I'm really happy you haven't seen my film yet, so that's the good news. I'm really, really honored to be moderating this Q&A because we were all in film school at the same time, and I was aware of all these people. And as a kid from Ohio, a little town of 700 people, I was incredibly intimidated by these people because I was aware of their work and their, really, I think we have a really unique group of films here. Everybody has a different point of view. Yeah. So, Catherine, I saw your film, and I think Nancy's very early when I was starting out. I saw Nina's a little bit shortly thereafter. I was aware of her work as well. And Todd, I think we were in a couple classes together, and I didn't see your film until it was sent to me, and I'm like, holy wow, I think we all forget too how much student films have changed because digital filmmaking now, we show student films at the Academy, and I'm just like, oh my God, these are like polished, professional, slick things because the tools are there, and my film's on Super 8, and you guys are doing animation with, stop motion and visual effects, practical visual effects, and, shooting on 16 millimeter and editing on film. It's a whole different thing. But anyway, I want to just ask you a couple questions. You started in animation and had animation, but you also ended up doing production design and then became a director. So can you tell me what at UCLA, where your head was then, and what was the path you were looking for? Were you looking to direct, or was that something that?
It's pretty random, I guess. I mean, especially seeing my film, very random. But I was an architect, and I had my degree from University of Texas, and had worked as an architect before I came here. I did not know anything about film clearly, and I didn't.
I think it's really fun.
Well, it was just super random. Animation. They gave me the camera. I'm like, okay, I can do little. I remember I just worked on it all over Christmas and just built that set and got people, some of the professors were dancing around and just like ridiculous stuff, just for fun. I think because architecture was so rigid that I just wanted to do something crazy and, just try things. I had no idea any categories in film, or I hadn't even heard of production designer, and it was just all very wild. I didn't have any structure at all, I realized. But after I did that, then I needed to make money. And so people said, hey, you used to be an architect, then you could production design, And so I, Roger Corman, like just production designing things and, making a pot feel, So I was just open to anything, And Mike Werb and I wrote this crazy project together. Everything was very random, my path.
I was going to say your story sense was so keen. I mean, it's such a satisfying journey, your film. It had a beginning, a middle, and it was really so clearly told. And your character, the dog, was such a specific attitude, that was consistent. I mean, it was really smart animation and just a satisfying journey. You really paid it off.
And lots of fun.
That's kind of funny.
Style.
I remember I went and photographed a real pit bull, and then I found and studied it, and then I found a guy that I thought had this bad attitude, an actor, and so I studied him and made him into the dog. I don't know. I mean, I tried to do it, but I did not know what I was doing at all. Yeah.
So Nina, you. Again, coming from Ohio, I knew Disney films, and we didn't. This is before VHS even, and so the idea of understanding and having seen, Buñuel or Bergman or Fellini or any of these things, that was all completely outside my realm, and you clearly knew. I could tell that you knew who you were and what you wanted to do. And of course, I'm like trying to figure out how to just get to school, you know? And so where did your style and you, because your films are very consistent. Where did the style, where did your sensibility, where do you feel that came from, and what did the film school, you know, what did that do to develop that?
I don't know where it came from. It was very, very strong in me. You know, I had just a very profound intuitive sense of what I wanted to do, and I just did it. You know, and I remember feeling like I had done, you know, when I was a teenager, I was a dancer, and I'd done photography, and I had all these, like, my family's from the Middle East, and I felt like I had all these diverse, weird, wacky things in my life, but when I got to Melnitz, I just was like, I felt like I had come home, and I just, like, I don't know, it was really a kind of, like, sort of a very deep revelation. I just started, like, the Super 8 film, that was my project one. I remember when I shot it with my sister, Tinka, who then I worked with for many years, going forward. But we, you know, I shot it at my mother's apartment with, you know, Super 8 camera, and Tinka, you know, try this. And then when we looked at the rushes that we got back, I mean, I was kind of knocked out myself, because I was like, oh, you know, and I don't know, I can't say where it came from. I always feel like I channel my films, and you know, I haven't changed my working style whatsoever since the first Super 8 film. You know, I just like do this like very weird idiosyncratic thing, and I'm not sure where it comes from or why, but it's sort of like I'm a slave to whatever that is. I'm not directing it; it's directing me. So.
But did you feel supported in what you wanted to do by the
I
professors?
felt totally, well, I just wanted them to stay away and let me do my thing. But the great thing was when my, you know, memory was that it was a kind of a hippie school, hippie atmosphere, like basic camera, basic editing, go, you know. So for me, like, because I knew exactly, not knew in my head, but, you know, I felt what I wanted to do. So I just wanted people to leave me alone, which they did. And so I think I stayed a graduate student as long as possible, like 12 years, and I just kept making films. And then when I graduated, I still kept making the films in the same kind of way, and I'm still kind of making them the same kind of way. So I would love to have a big budget, but I want to just say, like, I was so blown away by these films. They're so incredible. And like Nancy, I think if she hadn't been a woman, would be a major director today, because
she's a major editor.
I know
Nancy
she's a
has
major
any
editor, but
apologies.
I think if it wasn't for sexism, I mean, that film was incredible.
No, she edited
incredibly.
Catherine's film so much.
I know, but I think
Yeah.
that film was incredibly directed, and
Yes, it is.
that is a sign, like, both of us in different ways should have, you know, gotten more money and more acclaim on the director level. That's a feminist issue.
Mm-hmm. But I remember school as being a place where I didn't feel that sexism in the classes. I thought there was a really nice,
No, not at the school.
I thought there was a nice.
I'm talking
No,
about
I know.
outside of school.
I'm just saying that I think it's really interesting that UCLA, you know, developed people like Catherine and Nancy and you, and you know, Penelope Spheres came before, and Chick Strand, you know, there are others. I just think it's interesting that UCLA, as a school, I felt had a really nice mixture of attitudes and people. I really learned from that. I really felt that was a great incubator for a lot of people, and I felt that there was, I think people celebrated the differences at that particular time. I don't know what it's like now. But so anyway, and the professors even, you know, we had Jorge Perlorin and Frank Vallert with his accent and his pointer, and I thought it was a really interesting thing, even though there was also a lot of dissent going on because things were kind of disorganized. It turned out, I learned that, you know, see people, I think people learned that the disorganization actually taught you what, the studio and working was going to be like, So anyway, Nancy, I agree. Your film was one that I saw very early thinking, oh, good God, am I supposed to do something like that? Because, and I mean that in a very complimentary way, because I think it's a film that, we were all learning, and for actors, or you're casting people who are working for free. So I thought you found a good cast. I thought you had a script that was well written, and it's certainly well edited. And it's the same. I heard you, I think, use the word slow when you were mumbling to someone. Was that you or?
I would probably make some trims now.
Yeah. But I think at the same time you create a mood. You have a piece that really I felt it's a nice student
I actually
calling card.
think it's interesting because I think part of the reason I would make the trims now is that styles have changed.
Right.
That everything is paced up in a different way now than it was then. But I do remember, it's interesting that I don't want to really bring up sexism, but I had none of the security that Nina has in her process. And I was really like, what am I doing here? And I don't have any money. And, I had spent years working as a waitress. And I thought this was a contained way to work in one location, and I shot it in 4 nights, and mine was the cheapest film that anybody of my year had made. But I do remember trying to get a crew, and it was some guys who I was asking to work on it who were like the better lighting guys and grips and gaffers, and they were like, Nancy, when I go out to breakfast, I bring a newspaper because I don't want to watch the stuff the waitresses do. And I felt very discouraged by that. But I went ahead and made the film. So there was some, it wasn't from the professors, but I do think that was there and that continues today, definitely in terms of telling stories about women versus buddy movies with guys. So I only just watched the film again last week, and that was the thing that came back as a memory to me, was this sort of people kind of ridiculing the smallness of the film in a way. I don't know if that's a bad thing to say.
Well, I'm sorry. I remember thinking, wow, what a great, intimate, wonderful, film.
Good, I'm glad.
And you were one of the, I was this kid coming in. You were one of the people that talked to me in class. I didn't like talking. Yes, you did. And you were very friendly. You weren't overly talkative, but at the same time, you were very nice. So, just take it from me. That meant something to me at the time. So, anyway.
No, I came into film school not understanding anything about filmmaking at all, and I remember being the only person in class saying, raising my hand and saying, "Doesn't this sound already come on the film?" And everybody laughed at me, but I was kind of okay asking the stupid questions like that. So later people came up and said, I didn't know that either.
Thank you for asking.
So Todd, you were another one that struck me as being very confident in knowing what you wanted to do, and again, the way people appear and the way they are usually not always the same, but I think your film shows a lot of confidence, and the fact that you design your effects and all that. What did you come into, and what did UCLA give you, and what were the things that you were trying to accomplish with your film?
Ironically, I think Nina and I wanted the same things. We want somebody to give us the tools and get out of the way. This film is a funny story because I started it, and then my best friend at school committed suicide, and I then felt I had to make something important. I had this idea already, and I tried to make a film about his death and I shot it, and like Bryan Cranston is even in it. I never finished it because I got to this this pinnacle scene. It was trying to be a Hitchcocky thing about knowing the truth about someone, and I got to Griffith Observatory and went there for the view. It was totally sucked in, and the metaphor is my shot list literally disintegrated in my hands because of the moisture in the air all night, an all-night shoot. And I realized in that moment I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea what I wanted to say with this. The grief was too close. And I said, and I literally spent the summer anguishing and said, I'm going to go figure out what I'm going to do. Am I going to forgive myself for making am I going to back my whole career on a film that I didn't intend to make? Or am I going to go back and make the thing that I loved? And I literally forgave myself, boxed that up, and went back and started Chicken Thing. And I realized, in talking to a friend recently about it, I realized he said, I know how you made Chicken Thing. I don't know how you made Chicken Thing. And I realized I just couldn't fail because I kind of had already failed once. It took 3.5 years to make that movie. So many things went wrong. I shot half of it because the lab called the first year when to this day, my friend Justin Clarenbeck, they called and said, stop shooting, it's all black, it's all scratched, it's all, and just wads of film was destroyed. You could see the emulsion building up on screen. And so I said, you know what, I can do this. I'll learn how to do this, I'll shoot. So it took a year to build all the effects, and I came back and I shot the second half of the film with all the effects. And I had somebody who was gonna build the effects, and they failed me. And so I just realized nobody cares more than I do. And as long as I have the time, and UCLA gave me the time, as long as I have the time, I can make 10 minutes of film that is all mine and done the way I want it to be. And if I fail based on that, at least I failed on my own terms. Like I had to get 10 minutes of film. I said, Nick, no apologies, it's the best I could do. I could not, in that moment, I could not make a thing better than this. And for me, this is the story of my origin. When I was 5, I saw an episode of Johnny Quest, which scared the shit out of me. And I knew at 5, I wanted life to always be that exciting. And and then the amorphous troubles in our home and my parents' marriage and all that kind of distilled into this and is about this invisible electric blob, and fighting against invisible forces. And for me, it became who's in control? Is the media in control, or am I in control of my destiny? Why I became a filmmaker based on seeing something that just imprinted on my brain. So that's what I try to make with this. But I wanted to have fun. And that was my anarchist move at UCLA. I wasn't political. I wasn't social activist. I wanted to entertain, and that was hard then. You had to basically say, fuck everybody. I'm going to make my little horror comedy, So I didn't think anybody was paying any attention to me for a long time. And then when I came back the second year to shoot it, people were starting to whisper about it. It was some, but I literally just put my head down and I just made my movie because I knew that's what I had to do because it wasn't in vogue. At that time,
well,
everyone
not at
was
UCLA.
political.
It was at UC, but not.
USC was all about entertainment and Hollywood, and I was the outlier trying to entertain because that's why I came into film. I wanted to direct since I was 5, and then by the time I wanted to tell stories at 5. And by the time I was 9, I knew I wanted to be a director, even though I'd never met one or heard of. I would live a little tiny town in Pennsylvania. So UCLA gave me what I wanted. They gave me enough tools and a shit ton of freedom, and I decided to hang myself on that.
So, real quickly, can you name 1 or 2 or 3 people, professors or fellow students who were really, you're glad they were there? Or some, you learned something from them? Maybe you wish they weren't there, but then found out they taught you a lesson or something?
Who? All of us?
Yeah.
Well, in that film, the credits, Roach Wrangler is credited to Michael Miner, who went on to write RoboCop, and the punk guy who comes in with the paperclip is Dan Attias, who is...
Is that his real hair?
Yeah, that was his real
That's
hair.
crazy.
Who went on to become a major television director. And Jeff Gilmore was one of my grips who went on to run the Sundance Film Festival for 20 years. And I saw Rory Kelly's name on yours and on yours.
He was
That's
busy,
so
Rory.
funny.
I really credit Bob Nakamura because he did not understand. He was my guidance, my guy. What do you call him? My counselor? What do you call him? Your advisor. And he did not understand my project 1. This is not it. This is my project 2. He did not understand it, and then he advised against it. I made it and went, oh. oh, I get it now. And then I kind of earned his respect, and he just was supportive and lovely. And then, of course, every single person on the crew I'm grateful to. You're always so indebted to, and half of them are ex-studio presidents, and it's amazing, the people. Dan McDermott, I just finally worked with him on a TV series after 30 years. Our careers had never crossed again, and we just did a TV show together a couple of years ago. So there's lots of people you're indebted to.
And my re-recording mixer was another student, Clark Henderson, who became head of post at Technicolor.
And Abdul in the tech office.
Yes.
Abdul.
Anyway, do we have time for a couple of questions? Does anybody have a question they'd like to ask?
They're going to give me notes now.
They're gonna know. They're all satisfied. Anyway, okay. Well, I think is one of the things that a lot of students especially ask right now is, do you need to go to film school? What's your answer to that?
I work at the DGA in diversity, and we're always encouraging everybody, you got a phone, make a movie. So I don't know what that answer is anymore. I know at the moment I made this, there was a lot of focus on film schools to find talent, but now people it's all social media, and I don't know that answer anymore, actually, because you can make a great movie.
You can, but I think there's a number of famous film directors that didn't go to film school. Like, didn't Quentin Tarantino not go to film school? I don't know. The list is long, but from my perspective of having gone to film school, for me it was like the most incredible thing that ever happened to me in my life. And the perspective of being a teacher at Cal Arts, and you teach too. You teach too?
I teach a program at the DGA.
I think that I think that at least in a good program, I think it's really amazing what you learn in film school. I mean, a friend of mine, Mike Plant, who does the short selections, he told me that before the whole digital explosion with, everyone can make a phone on their iPhone. So before, they used to get, let's say, 300 films submitted to Sundance for the shorts, and then there would be like 30 good ones. And now they get 3,000 films submitted, and there are 30 good ones. So, the fact that everyone has an iPhone doesn't mean that people are making great work. I mean, I don't know. It's a different world,
Well, I'm going to say, I think, and they've all heard me say this so many times, I think film school gives you a community of people that you are probably going to work with for the rest of your career, and they become your best friends and your collaborators, and they're your I think education in general, people are always saying, does a degree really get you a better job? And the education is the end in itself. That's the experience of those years that you spend learning and in that environment is an experience that is invaluable and shouldn't be valued by some future paycheck. And film school is another experience like that. And what people choose to do with it, some people take a wrong turn, and I see these things happen all the time. But I do see students coming out of film school and maybe getting entry-level jobs and then shooting up much faster than people coming and getting an entry-level job who don't have the film school knowledge and training and craftsmanship.
Well, and to be allowed to start over, like Todd is talking about, that doesn't happen in a job.
And to fail safely.
Yeah.
You get to fail safely in film school, where you're not going to get to fail safely out there.
Right.
I always say one of the best advice I was never given was go to film school in California, because I was unhappy with LA, and I looked at Boston and Columbia and Chicago, but I stayed at UCLA before I got, I came in as an undergrad and came undeclared and had to wait to get into film school, and but go to film school in California because all your friends get jobs and they become this network that helps bridge. UCLA had then in the 80s, a terrible gulf between school and the industry. And, and those friends, that community that supported you through school then becomes that connection they became assistants. I mean, literally, my film went to Steven Spielberg because Danelle Black became assistant to Kathleen Kennedy. And she said, get your film. She worked on the film, and she kept picking second season directors for Amazing Stories. Get your film in. And she personally put it on that stack of films. But she was a student with me, so that network would not exist. I mean, networking is one of the most important things. I have this whole thing in the course I teach that I've kind of come from teaching that says joy. It is protect your joy, hone your craft, expand your network, repeat. And we have to, and in the DJ, we don't talk about joy, but as filmmakers, we have to sustain a career over the long haul, you have to protect your joy. And then you have to consistently hone your craft, no matter if you're working or you're not if you're employed or you're not working, whatever you're doing, you have to hone your craft, keep making stuff. And the next biggest thing is expand your network. And so that's what film school became, a network of friends and support, but a network of also of connections.
I mean, for me, most everybody that I hire comes from a film school, and they're just so good and so skilled and so talented. So I always kind of get the best, most awesome people from film schools because they've got all the skill sets.
Right. Well, I think we're supposed to go on. If anybody has any last comments they want to make.
You mean go away?
Go
away.
Yeah. Well, no. They've got. Yes, on with the show. I just want to say that one of the things UCLA gave me is I became aware of the Film Archive, and the Film Archive is putting on this. And the reason my film got pulled in is it was sitting on the shelf because I thought, oh, this is where films go. So I gave a copy to that. Perhaps you guys did too. I don't know. Anyway. I now work for the Academy Film Archive, and that was a career transition that after I got tired of working with executives at CBS who none of whom went to film school, but all had MBAs and had never really even liked movies, surprise. When I got tired of that, I went into the whole thing with film preservation. So it was a great segue for my career that if the UCLA hadn't been what it was and structured the way it was, I don't know where I'd be. Anyway, so I'm grateful for that. You're going to see my film, I guess, coming up. It's a Project 1 shot on Super 8. And the one thing I discovered this week is that all of my UCLA films are about paranoia. And I think that's my reaction to moving to Los Angeles and going, what is going on? And of course, needing to be a serious filmmaker because, that's what, and again, I thought I was going to be an entertainer too. And it was one of those things where, okay, maybe I should nurture people and be like a producer or executive. And that's what I ended up doing for a while. And then archive thing.
There were so many Project Ones about paranoia and
Yeah,
displacement.
well,
and because we'd all just moved to Los Angeles, and I remember so many films. I hope it's not yours, where there's multiple films where people, a mime is trying to give a flower to somebody on the beach. They're always trying to give acts of love.
that's mine.
To people that don't respond because we're all so lonely.
Yes, exactly.
Seriously.
And you had to work with what you had. So anyway. There was something else I wanted to say.
Does that mean people are afraid of mimes? No.
I know there were so many mimes in Project One. I go, what is the deal with mimes?
There was.
There were.
Well, now it's alarm clock.
But the one thing, and you're not going to believe it from seeing the film, but the one thing that this film taught me was John Bohm was my advisor.
Wow.
And he sat down with me in 10 minutes and showed me, because my film would have been about twice as long, so you're lucky he got to it. But he really showed me just really basic things that were wrong with my film and how to edit. And that skill was something I carried on when I went to CBS and was trying to make cuts and things. People say, well, you can't cut this, it's all perfect. I'm like, oh, no, here, let me show you. And they're like, how did you learn this? And nobody else knew how to edit. So it was great to have that expertise. And just, again, sometimes with that type of thing, it's just having somebody to show you what's going on,
Post was the big mystery.
Yeah.
Back then, our technology was so arcane with the double system sound and
Oh
all
my
that.
God,
Nobody,
yeah. Alex Cox was my teaching assistant, mixed my film. So when you hear the sound on it, it's not very good because he was worried about Repo Man and working on other things. But
You mean you saw him?
yeah. Well, anyway, I'm really happy to see you all. I'm really happy to see your films again, and I'm really happy to be able to think about. Thank God it's not. All these films are 30-something. They're not 40-something yet. So anyway, but we're the youngsters of this
Yeah.
retrospective. So
Yeah,
that's a
Yeah,
nice.
exactly.
Anyway,
That's scary.
Thank you, Rand.
congratulations to you all.
Yeah.